All right, so welcome everybody to Off the Record Airtable Secrets and More. This is a very exciting week to be here. So thank you all for joining. We're a group of Airtable users exploring new ways to use Airtable to optimize our businesses and lives. And we're open to hearing from anyone about your experience, good or bad, using Airtable to make a positive impact in the world. We attempt to promote people coming from any level to share your ideas or ask any questions. We also share our experiences, tips, and practices and offer ways to get help and get involved in the community. We meet every other Wednesday from 7 p.m. Eastern time to 8 p.m. Eastern time. So to kick things off, typically we go through Airtable news, and then it just kind of flows from there as to like what's happening in the community. This week, I know we have a few things on the agenda. First, we're going to start off with an announcement from Chris and I. And then what we're going to be going into is I know we have Hector, who has something to share about podcasting from what I've been told. But to start off,
no,
Chris...
it's not about. It's about something else. I don't know what it's about. I told him he needed to come. We'll make it work.
So to kick it off, Chris, do you want to start off with the announcement?
Sure. So as so many of you know, Ben and I have been doing this podcast video stream. It's not even a podcast because it's not live anywhere for some time. And we love the Facebook group. You know, we're so proud of every single one of the 6,300 people that are part of this group. Has grown so much in the past year. I think I'm most proud of the fact that we really focus on people coming from all levels. It's not like any other Airtable community I've been in. People helping people. I see more formulas get created on an average day than I ever saw in math class. But with all of that, the one thing that's been on my mind is like, how do we take this to the next level? How do we do something that's truly unique and truly inspired by the community that inspires us? So I thought I'd share a little bit of history with you folks. Ben and I have been doing this for a while now, but this actually started out, as some of you may or may not know, in September of 2020. So a year and a half ago, I had this idea to have a users conference. It was virtual because everyone was virtual. We had about 1,000 people sign up. We had Airtable actually support us. And it was the first time Airtable had ever done anything. I don't know if any other type of small groups, Kavan, or I know Dan would probably know, but it was a big deal to me. I was most proud of the fact that we had more women, more people of color, and more LGBT folks as keynote speakers than we had anything else. So it was really focusing on diversity, which is something so important to me. As a lot of you also know, because you've been watching Ben and I for a year now, Ben and I actually started the first Clubhouse just focusing on Airtable. And then our first regular news channel. I mean, there's a lot of Airtable videos, but they're like lessons. This is the only show you can come and get actual Airtable news. Ben, right? Would you say it's the news, sort of, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we get to news.
We try to get to news. We sometimes go off the rails as well as off the record. And we've tied it to the community. But today I'm so excited to say we have something even bigger coming. So on the heels of this amazing community, this show that we stream every other week, and the Airtable User Conference, on April 8th of this year in Austin, Texas, we have reserved 2 floors for the first ever Airtable User Conference, Expo, and Awards. We're calling it Daretable 2022, and it's going to be off the charts. We took 2 floors in the Capital Factory. The Capital Factory is the biggest incubator tech innovation space in downtown Austin. We rented out both floors, the keynote space, vendor hall. We're having it catered. It's going to be on a Friday and Saturday, and it's only a block from Airtable's office. We're trying our hardest to make sure we can get everyone down to Airtable for a tour. But we have something even more amazing about this conference. Ben and I have been working diligently. Ben, would you say it was diligently?
Very diligently over the past
Very diligently. On the Daretable 2022 site. So Ben, is this coming through for you, the video?
Yep. Yeah, it looks good.
So if you go to daretableconference.pori.app, and we'll put the link in all over the internet, so you don't have to worry about it, you'll be able to get your ticket and find out more information about the conference. The conference is, like I said, it's at Capital Factory. It's really broken down into 4 main areas. Education, something we're all very passionate about. We don't want the kung fu. We want people just coming to learn. Communities, what are people doing to support each other and others? Tools, so a vendor and expo hall, and then solutions. If you've got something, bring it and get in front of your new customers. We really want to focus on every Airtable user, but we're also focusing on speakers and tool makers. So if you've got an app or you've built a base and you want to get it sold, that's the best place to go. I'm really a stickler for safety. So we've implemented a code of conduct. We actually have a help desk reporting system. And obviously we've got an FAQ. So if you have any questions about everything from where to park to who we are, what we do, this site is here for you. But I think most impressive, this entire site was built on Airtable. So everybody who comes to the site, you can go to daretableconference.pori.app right now. You can actually sign up. And when you sign up, you'll get access to the Daretable app. And we'll talk more about the Daretable app in just a moment. But the conference website actually goes into detail to focus on what we're doing. So obviously, like I said, we're going to have a bunch of keynotes. We're having content, networking, products. But we're also having an unconference on the second day. And that unconference is going to give everybody in the community who comes a chance to get up, pitch, or demo their idea live. We're having the whole thing catered. So that wasn't easy, but I kind of twisted Ben's arm and said, let's get some food up in there. And we're doing awards. So we're allowing the community to kind of vote on their favorite Airtable apps and solutions, etc. Starting today, we have a call for speakers. If you would like to come to the event, you'll get a free ticket. Plus, we are paying every speaker who comes $500 for their 1-hour presentation. It's not a lot of money, but it's something. I told Ben, I've been asked to speak at so many conferences over the year for free, for exposure. You don't need the exposure, you need the cash. So what we're doing is we're making sure we empower the speakers who want to come speak. If you want to, go to daretableconference.pori.app/speakers. There's a speaker submission form. Tell us what you want to talk about. We'll get you on the schedule. Speaking of schedule, our agenda is live. So you can come in here, you can see we've got our 3 tracks. So if you want simple Airtable classes, if you want more intermediate classes based on applications and interfaces, or you want to come in and look at the extended stuff and the partners. Or maybe you just want to come in and say, I want to learn about design. It's all super filterable and you can see what classes and what sessions we have. Now, some of our speakers are still to be determined because that's on you guys, but you can come in here and already see the keynotes that we've got planned. And again, what I love about the Daretable app for the conference is you can see how great Airtable is, allowing you to link to the speakers table and even the location table and see the things that are happening in each of those rooms, plus embed the videos. So the conference itself is really an exercise in an exploration on how to take Airtable to the next level. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the sponsor section. If you have a solution, you want to come to our event and sponsor. Obviously, we're not paying sponsors. You can see the people who were sponsored us at our 2020 event here, but definitely reach out to us. Speaking of 2020, every speaker who was at 2020 gets a free ticket. So if you spoke at 2020, you don't have to do that. And out those tickets. So tickets are $200, which is an enormously inexpensive price to come to a 2-day event in Austin, Texas, and get it catered. So we are hoping everybody will definitely want to come. Last but not least, what's behind the curtain? So once you buy a ticket, you can log into the Daretable app where you can update your user profile and allow other people at the conference to see you, who you are, what you do. But more importantly, you can come in here and even do your speaker selections, all based on the power of Airtable. So the conference will have a real-time application on the front end that anyone can sign up and see our sessions. There's Ben right there. Or they can come in and see who's speaking, browse our solution portfolio, see the other publicly chosen attendees, and more. With that, I am telling you, I am so excited. I think it's time we got Airtable users together in person to show off what they do, how they do it, and make a difference. Because there's not a person in this community or a person I've met who hasn't been profoundly impacted by the power of Airtable. Speaking of that, we've got someone here today I met recently named Hector, who's going to share a little bit of his story with us. But before we get into that, thoughts? Charlie, Hector, Kuvan, this is new. I know we didn't ask, we didn't tell anyone we were going to do this. What are your thoughts?
What if I should be a speaker?
You'll get paid and you're a good speaker.
You know what I would speak about?
Yeah, probably Airtable. What do you think of the site, Kavan?
I think it looks really cool. And so this is all done in Pori with Airtable data, right?
Yep, all, and I could show people the base. We're actually have a breaking out session on the second day for an hour and a half where we will rebuild the site for free. So everybody leaves having a Miro planning board, an Airtable base. You won't get a template. We will build it in class and a Pori front end so you can do this in real time. I want people to leave the conference with Airtable solutions, not bases. I'm tired of bases. I'm tired of automation, right? I want people to make stuff that functionally works and changes things.
Where they put it all together. It's not just here's a table, here's an automation. It's here's an entire system.
Here's like a solution.
Sounds like everyone needs to make sure that they bring their laptop as well.
Yes, laptops are required. Charlie, what do you think, Charlie? I'm glad you came tonight.
Charlie, I think you're on mute.
I think it's amazing. I think this is something that's needed in our community. There's a lot of us like power users that have gotten to this point and we're like, you know, consulting, but also helping people on the side. And like, we want to come together because I feel like if we come together, it's even more powerful and we can build and just help each other, like learn the tricks. Like I learned something amazing from Ben the first time I spoke to him, like how to generate PDFs on Google Docs. I'm sorry for the segue, but I mean, it's one of the most powerful things that I've learned, you know, and I'm just like mind blown. There's just a little quick 15-minute conversation and who knows what other conversations we'll have if we're actually in person pulling up. And I live in Miami and nobody here knows about Airtable. So I'm just going to be like super happy to be around other Airtable enthusiasts. That's yeah, I can't wait.
It means a lot to me, Charlie. I tell you, this community has just been such a godsend to me because there are days and weeks where I just don't want to function. And I know Ben's expecting me to get on camera and like talk about my latest Airtable exploits. So I'm excited just to meet people in person. Speaking of meeting people in person, Hector, I hate to put you on the spot, but we met a couple weeks ago on Twitter, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was introduced to Airtable a few months ago, maybe, because my network, the podcast network that I produce for, got onto Airtable and was just trying to immerse myself into it. And of course, your name came up. And so I saw a few of your videos and tracked you down on Twitter and just found another, kindred soul. I mean, I think that you're not alone when you talk about not a lot of people, in Miami knowing about Airtable. It's just, I think it's not something that you could just walk outside and run into somebody and have a conversation with them about, let alone get to the level that you guys are at. So I feel like I'm in good company here.
So Hector, tell us a little bit about you and what got, because I don't want to pull up your tweets or our DMs back and forth, but they were powerful. I mean, tell us about you, your family, what you do, and what made you interested in Airtable, because you went down quite the little Christanti rabbit hole. I'll just put that there.
I did go down it. And so the short is I am a father, a husband. I have 2 young kids, and the things that keep the lights on is podcasts. And so I've been in internet marketing for 5-6 years now, and podcasts over the last several years. And I produce and market about 6 or 7 shows now. And so that is kind of the functional reason, it's kind of the job, the day job part of it. But I had one of my mentors, David Osborne, had really encouraged me a couple of years ago to start tracking, my goals and my habits and the things that, that you see in all the books. And I had learned all the things, but for some reason, things just had never clicked or never gelled. And I was trying to do it in Google Sheets. And, for the whole last year, I was kind of bumbling my way through Google Sheets and having, creating a makeshift productivity thing is, the best thing that I would describe to it. And so when I found Airtable, not only do we run kind of all of our shows out of it, not only do we do all of our, production and podcast marketing, all that aspect of it, but, just recently I've set a goal to read my kids 1,000 books. And so, those types of goals had always gotten lost in the middle. I'd get 50, 70, 100, and there was just no simple way to keep track of those things. And so Airtable and all its kind of facets and its forms and views and all the kind of snazzy things, a lot of things do most of it, but I've never seen Airtable make it, do all of it and put it as together as simply. And so, that's kind of the basis. When I ran into you, I finally found someone who was as technologically driven yet as compassionately focused, I think is probably the best way that I would put it,
I get it.
and so that was kind of the big thing that stood out to me, was that you have the systems, but there's really some humanity behind it. And I think that's what drew me the most to kind of going down the rabbit hole.
It's so interesting because, like, people, when they read about me and all that kind of stuff, they're always like, oh, you wear all these sensors. I'm like, yeah, I have all the sensors, all that kind of stuff. But like, my story's always been one of autonomy. Like, I got tired of having interfaces and programs tell me how to behave. Outlook taught me to do email, right? I can't tell you how many task lists taught me to do tasks, right? Meditation apps taught me to meditate. And I think we're missing in the society the ability to have tools that you shape.
Well,
that don't shape you.
That's it. And I can't tell you how many goal apps I've tried, and they just never seem to fit me or fit what I was kind of doing. And the other thing that I was telling my wife, she's like, why you're all addicted to this Airtable thing. And what I told her is that it really allows me to be present with everything else, because I can get everything out of my head, and I know it's in a place that I can go back and actually find it. It allows me to be a better dad, and to be, more present in my business, to be more creative, because I'm not trying to hold on to all those things in my head, trying to remember. Like just the other day, we were talking before bedtime, and something happened that we had to remember. And I used to just like close my eyes and try and remember. And then I did that, and I caught myself, and I said, wait a minute, let me just grab my phone. And I had created a form on my phone and a quick little shortcut, and I just pulled it up and threw the task in my phone, and the next day it got done. And so it was just those types of things, I think, have made a big difference, in kind of the qualitative enjoyment of life.
One of the things I did in my base 2 years ago was I built this World of Love map. And this World of Love map was so that my spouse or any member of my family or friends, everybody's got access to a form, an Airtable form. And you can go out and fill it out if there's a moment or something that really makes you feel special. Like I said something, or we were someplace, or you saw the picture. Facebook does this for you, but for us. And what it's allowed us to do, because this is shared with me, my family, and private group of friends, is at any point, anyone come in here and search the World of Love, go back to a specific point in history, to the very location and or time, and read about the memories that were tied to that. And I think, again, that's the power of saying, I don't want a tool to teach me how to remember. I want to remember and tell the tool how, right? These are, I don't want to go to Mark Zuckerberg and ask for my memories back. And I know Airtable is an enterprise tool, but the first enterprise you need to work for is you. And a lot of people are missing that. They're getting caught up in this hustle culture. And if you just move enough and do enough, you'll be enough. You'll never be enough. You have to be enough to you first. And I think that's where these tools, and creating these tools that help you figure out who you want to be, start to just make sense to people. And I think it's really going to catch on. So when I heard from you, Hector, and I heard that you'd watched a couple of these videos, and more importantly, I could tell from your text, you're passionate about this. I was just like, he gets it. He understands it's about his time, but more than anything, it's how he spends his time, because you can't save time. You can only spend it right. You will never save time. You can only spend it right. So I was so excited to hear from you, and excited to have you on this show tonight.
I had resisted it for weeks. I had heard about the move to Airtable, and what's interesting is our organization shifted so much. Shifted so frequently that when I kind of heard this, I thought, oh, it's just another tool that we're switching on to. And well, I've been through so many, the Asanas, the Trellos. I mean, you name, all the ones that we've done. And so I had resisted initially. And when I saw the kind of, it was very quick that I realized the capabilities. And I saw that not only could we run, stuff that I have a network that I produce for, I have my own agency and my own business that I have it for, and then, my own life. So I've got my kind of three bases, and I think it was a matter of 3 days before I had all the bases set up and, kind of running, because I saw the potential of it and all of the knowledge. I had all the know-how. So it wasn't like I had to figure anything out. It was just about, kind of going in and building it. And that was really fun for me.
And I think it's so interesting because, I think Charlie, we've spoke before, and I know Kavan does this all the time. And I remember the first time I met Ben, I said this to them: Airtable is one of the few tools I've ever used that force you to externalize what you value before you can use it. You have to decide what's important before you can touch it. And I can't tell you how refreshing that is. I am so tired of being told what's important. We live in a world where we don't know how to measure what we care about, so we care about what's measured for us. And Airtable allows us to come in and look at these tools, look at our systems, and look at how we work and live. Hector, when you talked about your 3 systems, your 3 parts of your life, I see it, right? And again, I know it's not the most elegant thing. You can't just download it from the App Store, but it's yours. And in time, it'll get better and smarter and faster. And I don't know, I'm just so happy when I meet people like you who just, I hate to use a cliche, but free yourself from the matrix of bullshit that is just clouding up our screens and our devices.
Well, I have a selfish question for you, Chris. I'd love to get your take on now that we're here. Is one thing I've found and I had to just be mindful of was the difference between making the base more elaborate and just, let's call it, for lack of a better term, executing the base and working the base, right? And how do you, so much of my time I had to cut myself well. It's like, do I spend another 2 hours automating this and playing around with this, or so how do you deal with that, and how do you balance keeping it simple or adding stuff onto it?
For me, I shared with you that image of kind of my life. It was like that little square with all the little things, but it just came down to like, what are the things I have to have in a base? Like if I'm going to have a system that does anything, what are the things it has to do? So for me, it first and foremost, it had to be a digital driver's license. So Hector, you talked about like, can you find something, right? I needed a single record where I could find my name, address, a copy of my actual driver's license, maybe my birthday, something if someone says, fill out a form, I could say, no, you copy my information. I'm done filling out forms for freaks, all right? I don't know what the hell has happened, but I spend more time filling out forms for other people. The next thing was, okay, if I have a driver's license, what's the next thing to happen? Well, I have the things that should dictate how I spend my time. I call them values. Those things live inside the memories of my life, a timeline, and those things then evolve around how I'm doing as a health. And the system just built itself. I can't say, that it was any divine intervention, but when I thought about the parts of my life, and your question was, how do you decide whether it's elaborate or not? To me, it just has to make sense. And my rule of thumb when it comes to Airtable is it has to look like you can eat it. I told Ben this when we first talked, like your base doesn't have to have a lot of automation. It has to look tasty. You have to be able to want to open it up and interact with it instantly. Take, for example, my journaling base. This thing looks tasty, right? I come in here, I log how I'm feeling, I log the sleep I got. It draws a tarot card for me. Yeah, I'm that person. I put some videos and photos in. You can see I was working on the site this on the 11th, what I was doing in the afternoon, do some stuff at the end of the day. And it keeps track of all the other things going on around the world because I'm also into like nature and stuff like that, but then kind of gives me an overview of how I'm doing. This looks tasty. So do you need a lot of automation? Maybe, I don't know. I don't need a lot of automation. I need a lot of me. Do you need a lot of like forms and capture and maybe I don't. I just need to know certain things. But when I need to know them, I need to know them now. Not an hour from now. I don't want to run a report. I don't want to go. The one thing the Airtable just loses me on half the time is search. I shouldn't have to spend 5 clicks to get to something, right? Now, I know interface designer will fix that, but I could rant about this all day long. I think at the end of the day, the best bases look like you want to start to use them right out of the box. They don't need to have anything more that you want to type in it. So many people create elaborate systems no one wants to touch. That's like going to the gym and deciding you're never going to date again. So I think, most people need to kind of get their minds around Airtable doesn't have to be this panacea of solutions, this Pandora's box of possibility. It should be at least the thimble of actionable things you can do. The thimble. If you can do one thing with Airtable better than you can do anything else, you've won. And that's what I want this conference to be about. I want people to come to this event. I want people to see these sessions. I want people to speak. Hector, I'd love for you to speak. Charlie, I'd love for you to speak. Come on, I'd love for you to speak. We had a lot of speakers. And tell people, How is it changing your life? And how can you teach other people to change their lives? We can't wait. We cannot wait for somebody to upgrade a product and make our life better. Everybody I know is waiting for the next upgrade of this, that, or the other thing, then their life will suddenly get better. It's not. The upgrade you're waiting for is you. Trust me, I did it to myself. And I'm tired of being alone in a world where only I feel like I'm empowered by technology. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good point, Chris. Like you're the grandpa cyborg, if I'm getting that accurate.
It is, yeah, that's what I call it.
And
I'm 50.
yeah, and you're somebody who has been at the forefront of technology for so long, but you've also been a slave to the tools that have been made for you. And Airtable, now I'm kind of projecting, but it's probably so relieving for you because you finally have that power back onto yourself. And so you're not, like you keep saying that. I think this is the first time it actually synthesized in my brain, that actual point, and it kind of comes all together. For me, it's kind of, I've always had these ideas of what can I build for like, business ideas or like workflows, and it's kind of separate. But that was the light switch that went off in my head when I saw Airtable. It was like, oh my God, I could build these micro applications for like everything, externally. And, I hate to say it, but for my own personal life, I really do very little in Airtable. Like my satisfaction comes from like seeing a business that has a bunch of Google Sheets and they're just like disparate all over the place, and someone's just like panicking because they have to, reconcile this sheet to this sheet, and someone just broke a formula, and you just come to them and say, what happens if, I make this automation that sends the email to that person, and then it just has a form in the email, or even just a webhook. They click the button that says yes, and then it automatically submits that. So that's kind of where my I get so much dopamine.
Are you familiar with the concept of a servant's heart?
No.
So there's my husband is told me once when we first met. He's very kind. He's the absolute opposite of me. I'm kind. I'm just very blunt with my kindness. I will kill you with my kindness. But he once said to me, "You don't understand. I can't do that. I have a servant's heart." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "He likes to give. He sees problems and he wants to solve them." And what I hear you saying is, you don't need this big elaborate Airtable for yourself, because you actually find pleasure in freeing other people from their kind of silicon chains, if you would. And I think that's really noble. And I think you need to kind of look at it that way, that, some people might hold doors open for other people. Some people might return grocery carts. You make webhooks that make people, but think about it this way. Every webhook you give someone to say yes, that fills out a process, is 5 minutes they got back with their kid. Have you ever thought about that?
I actually get a lot of pleasure from thinking of I kind of like visualize when I close my eyes all these like little pings that are happening across the internet, like electrons that are firing, that I set up maybe like 6 months ago, one little automation that's actually like really helping somebody. And it's just at the beginning when I started Airtable, it was maybe one every day, one little thing, a Twilio message that went out, hey, your car's ready, it's washed, here's a picture of your car wash, and like here's a form pre-filled to book your next car wash. So it was like little pings, but at this point it's like, right, per second, there's probably multiple, like because of how many projects and automations that I've done. So yeah, I think it's a good point.
I mean, I hate to say it, but because people kind of get hung up on the word, but it's very cybernetic. I mean, you're omnipresent. Your footprint is omnipresent. And I just think that is such an amazing thing to think about. Think about the time that Hector gets back with his kids, or the time he actually can think about his kids because he's not worrying about where all these things are. And I just wish we talked more about that. I don't know. Ben, what has this experience been like for you the past couple of weeks, bringing up this site and planning all this? Because I'm telling you guys, I put Ben through the ringer.
I very much enjoyed learning on Pori and software, because I had built a different site on software as well. I redid my website, but...
Oh, what's your new site?
Huh? Show us the new site? I'll show you the new site.
Everyone, Hector, can you show us anything of yours, or if you don't have to?
Whatever you guys want to see, we can jump in and I can walk through it if that's.
Just show us a couple of your things. Ben, show us your site. Let us jump over to Hector after that. Hector, I don't want to keep you long. I know we're keeping you from the family. Hector's on the West Coast. Charlie, where are you?
Miami.
Right. Well, that's right. You said that earlier. Show us your new site, Ben. So Ben, this is built on Softer.
Yeah, so I'm going to show the old one and the new one. So the old one was built in ClickFunnels, and my website has always been just like a sales page essentially. So this is the old one, and I think the new one is far improved from this. It's very much the same copy, as in like the words on the page, but this is what the old one looks like. And this is the new one built on Softer. So this is, I actually don't have any, like there's no login or anything. You can't see anything on the back end of Softer with this. I just wanted to see what it would look like on the front page. So these are a few of my clients, just like some testimonials, but this is the page. And I think it looks a lot better. And ClickFunnels is supposed to be like for a sales page similar to this, but Softer really kicked it out of the park, I think.
What parts of this front page are actually talking to your base?
Any of like the buttons. So, well, actually, like these down here, there's probably like 12 or so testimonials. These are all, I think they're from, I can't remember actually. They may or may not be pulling from the base, but anywhere where you put in your email, it will take you to this page, which if you do this, I actually just got a Slack message that I got a new email opt-in pretty instantly. And then if I were to do this, this will also, I don't know if you could hear the Slack message.
Yep, I did.
This should pretty instantly go to my page as well, or to my base, and also to Slack.
I know I'm a grandpa cyborg, but I gotta tell you people, you know what I love about Ben? He is just a machine when it comes to like sales and making things, because I can't sell anything. And I just love how fast he thinks. I really want to get to know Hector, because Hector does something I want to get involved in, and that's like the business of podcasting. It blows. I don't get it at all. It's cool, man.
I'm shocked that I'm not shocked. I'm excited that you have an opportunity to start a podcast, because you need to be there. There's so much
I've resisted because there's just too much content in the world. That's to be honest with you. I've been asked to do one by so many times. My manager company's out in New York. They've told you to put me on a podcast, like literally with the big names, and I'm just like, there's enough content.
Can I share a perspective with you that changed my mind on that? So I thought the same way, and I thought, there's podcasts on all the craziest things. And someone told me that the same thing happened with books, right? But no one is saying that there's too many books being written. In fact, I would question if you would say that there's too many books, it's because of the foundational, I don't know, value that books have. And the same kind of thing is happening with podcasting. And so I just would, you can take that for as it will.
I had never thought about the book thing. Kavan, you've been unusually quiet tonight because we've been talking too much. What's been going on in Kavan world? In Kavan, I don't think you know Hector. You might remember Charlie, but why don't you introduce yourself to Hector and those people who've not watched the show, and tell us about you.
No, I'm just Kavan. I'm an Airtable consultant.
Expert.
And I love
you're an
writing
expert.
formulas, and I love writing scripts, and I love building bases. One of my things that is just kind of a say, you might have heard this before, is I build bases because my former hobby was making quilts, and quilts made great gifts, but it just costs too much and the materials are too long and it takes so long to do it. Building a base is actually very similar to making a quilt, where you have to say, what are all the little pieces? How can I put them together so that they make a beautiful picture? And the other problem with that is I found out that databases don't make great gifts. You have to actually make people buy them from you.
Cool. That's beautiful. And you are an Airtable genius, is how I would say it.
So I'm just a consultant and just coming in here to see what people do. And I love, Chris, I love what you said, how Airtable makes you think about what you value first, because it's really very true. And also when you're selling space, because when you first open up Airtable, you have nothing. You have no fields. You have to say, what fields are important to me? What fields do I actually care about? And then you have to go and create those fields and put that data in for you. And so, it's not saying that you actually, you love this and it's the most important thing, but you have to decide that what pieces of data are actually important enough for you that you want to go in and create a field and fill that out.
Yeah. I don't know. People used to look at me crazy when I would say Airtable is about externalizing your values. But one of the first conversations I ever said with Ben, and Ben got it instantly. And I was like, I don't care what this guy wants. I'll do anything for him. He gets it. He gets it. Hector, show me some good bass.
Let's jump in. You know, what's interesting is I was just thinking about why I was so excited about it. And I was building, or we were working in a CRM software tool that's doing a lot of big advertising right now. And I drive down the 405 here in Southern California. My parents live in LA still, and their billboards are all over. I won't name them unless you want. But the thing that they missed was the views. And I think that, you know, as I was kind of going through this, I think that was what really made the big difference, and why I think really made the big difference, because there's no other tool that makes it so, you know, so easy to see the same sort of data in a bunch of different ways. And I know that Airtable does a lot with, you know, editorial calendars and content calendars. And so obviously we have a podcast, and this particular base we run 4 shows out of, but anybody who's doing, you know, any sort of content or social media or any sort of that stuff, this is, you know, I think it can be applicable. So I guess we'll start at the top here. Where we just kind of throw in our shows here. And this is just, you know, really so that we have an ability to link. I love that when you link to something, like it's all there. And, you know, so that whether it's tasks or other episodes and stuff like that, that's kind of where it starts. And then for us, we never really had, you know, an editorial calendar place before. And so now, you know, what's cool is we can go in here and see from our calendar view where we're at in production. So all the greens are, you know, we're ready to go and ship out the door, the yellows in production, and then, you know, kind of the orange and reds we need to do a little work on. And so what's cool is we used to have a bunch of different places to manage this, but now, you know, whether it's the production or there's different parts of the production. So like show notes. So we even have kind of a separate calendar to see where we're at there. We kind of break it down based on shows, you know, to see all the shows, and then also, you know, where particular shows are at. And I really love the grouping function too, just because I mean, it's brilliant. And I don't know why it's not, you know, why it's not more prominent, or it's so intuitive, and it's so great. So we really utilize that. We play around a little bit.
Sometimes I'm like addicted to grouping. Like clients will tell me like quit grouping so much. Like it just looks so much better. Like look at the colors.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes it look more attractive, but yeah, keep going.
We also like to move, like, you know, sometimes I'm playing around with the automation, but I'm not, I might need some of your guys' help with the formulas, and I break down when it comes to that. But the next part of it is obviously the promotion of it. So once the show is up and ready, we have kind of a separate table here for our marketing calendar and our marketing systems and processes. And so these were all separate sheets. They were all separate documents, and then separate tabs within those sheets. And so that's all one place. We've got another place where we manage our ad production, all of our sponsors and stuff. And then just this past couple of weeks, actually, it looks like just this past week was the one where we actually got it implemented. We started doing our stats in here. I'll show you. Before, we would track it in Google Sheets, and it was like it was a mess. It was really a mess, and it was just, you know, it was a mess. And so we brought that over. And the only reason I want to share this with you is that I found the apps this past week, and so I used to have to put together
Will Robinson.
This little report puts together for our partners and our hosts, and it just automatically, I used to have to like manually create these PDFs here. And so that's been a really big time saver for us too. So that's and the tasks here, I actually really like this part too. So what I like is that all of these kind of connect to one task table, where if there's things that need to get done, certain episodes that need to get created or whatever, that all goes here. And so as opposed to it being a Google Calendar, and it used to be Slack and all these other things, all that happens here in this one base.
I think that's what I love so much, Hector. And you alluded to earlier when I first found Airtable. It's that your data takes on these personas, the persona of a calendar, the persona of a Kanban board, the persona of a group listing, right? It's just the persona of a form. It's the only time I ever felt fluidity in my work. I could take something that's as simple as a phone or in the data and make it into anything. And I think that's probably intimidating for a lot of people, you know, or a lot of people are like, oh, I can't handle that. But like, for me, it's relaxing because again, sometimes I want to be a calendar. Sometimes I want to be a Kanban board. You know, I just, you know,
And certain things work for certain views are better for certain instances and certain activities. And I think also what's really cool is that it can be as elaborate or as simple as you want. You know, I think you shared with me on Twitter, or maybe you put it on one of the replies to your husband's board, and I love it. He's obviously on the other end of the spectrum. He's much like my wife. I showed her, you know, what I was doing in Airtable, and she glazed over, and I think she got upset with me, just because she's just a different kind of, you know, a different kind of person. But it can be whatever you want it to be. I think it's the beautiful thing.
Yeah, my spouse has a lot of problems with, like, I don't know how to say this other than structured data. Like, it just, that is overwhelming, the concept of structured data. So it was actually the integration into Miro that made him kind of an Airtable convert, because what we do weekly is we actually have weekly meetings. We have a 10-year-old and my spouse and I, and we actually go through our values, which are in Airtable, as you know. But then we have a Miro board, where each week on a Sunday, we grab these stickies, which the colors are tied to it, and we put them through on the past week where we did things good, not so good, and things we want to change, versus next week, what types of things do we want to focus on? So I always like to say, I'm really good with tasks. He's really good with intentions. So, you know, he sees things and they happen. I structure things and they get done. You know, and I think it's really important. You know, I did a whole session on neurodiversity last year with Marie Pullen, who's a big Notion person. And it was just, I'll be honest with you, it's been a relief to tell people my brain is different. I'm not ashamed to say. I get anxious if things are messy, not desks, information. Bookmarks in browsers. When people share their screens and they show me their bookmark bars, I sometimes feel like I'm going to have a panic attack, because I'm like, you somehow can find things in there, you know? So it's just really interesting. I will show you guys something really cool. I found this great tool this week called Outscraper, if you want to look up Outscraper. And what's so cool about Outscraper is it scrapes Google Maps. So you can basically put in any city. I wasn't going to do an Outscraper demo, but I'm going to see if it'll let me in here right now. I'll do it next time. You could scrape any city, but you put in, here you go, here's a good example. You just put in, like, maybe you want to find all the pet food stores. So maybe you're a business and you want to market to these places, or a podcaster and you want to find local business of a sort. It dumps all that information now in seconds. So just to try it out, because I'm kind of a metaphysical kind of person, I dumped every single psychic, crystal shop, and metaphysical store to an Airtable base and created Magical Houston last week. And Magical Houston allows you to come in here and say, look in this section of town, it'll find just the magical beings, any part of town. Or you can say, find me the bookstores, find me the life coaches, find me the gift shops. And you can come in here, you can look up these places. You can go to their website. It'll give you Google directions to their car, or you can read the reviews. And what's really great about this is, from my phone now, we have a Magical Houston shortcut. And what we've been doing is, once a day, we go out the Magical Houston Airtable that I scraped Google for, and we find all these crazy, amazing metaphysical people. And I just think, when I was building this last weekend, I said to my spouse, I said, I wish people knew how easy it was to expand their life. You know, so often we go to Google and, like, Google says, well, here's the first 3 things. We don't say, find me everything within 3 miles and make it searchable. You know, and it's the power of being able to do that. When I think about Hector and the shows you have and the type of people they want to reach, well, you could sell them a base with those type of content. Because, by the way, it's not just addresses. I could have paid for phone numbers and email for these places, right? So it's just amazing, the types of stuff that's available out there today. It's really exciting. Maybe we need a section in the conference on scraping Google.
I just want to say, it sounded like you said Miro diverse, which was pretty cool. After you were showing your Miro doc, but you said Miro diverse. But
I should have said neurodiverse, but I might have said Miro diverse, because I am neurodiverse.
But
I really
can't.
Can't use Airtable without Miro. I don't have a base that doesn't have a Miro board. So the Airtable app, the thing we built, the Daretable app, the one we built for the conference, Like that literally started out as, you know how I kind of structured my life? That thing started out with me structuring, well, what would you see if you were a vendor versus what would you see if you were a speaker versus what would you see if you were an attendee? So I had to create this entire Miro board based on the permissions model. In my mind, I see the permissions model, so I had to just draw it. Everything sits within inside a website. Part of that website is public, part of it's private for me and Ben. Inside of that private section, a section for speakers and attendees. The attendees is the smallest view. Vendors have a separate view that can say who signed up, and registered users kind of come in and may or may not have access to everything else if they haven't paid for it yet. So, you know, when I think about, I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm Rain Man or something, but like I can't see a system without seeing the security and data layers to it instantly. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like, I don't know.
There's definitely an art to like systems thinking, and you trained yourself to think that way over so many years. And for other people who aren't like systems thinkers, for them to see that, it just like makes sense. But for them to get there, they can't get there quite as, because you've been doing this for many, many years. But it just works really well to show other people. And it's like, this is how I think, and this is what it looks like, and this is how it works. And it just like clicks. With
one of the sessions we're doing at the conference is I'm doing an hour and a half long session where we start in a Pori, and then we do an Airtable, then we do a front end with a Miro, Airtable, Pori, so that people can see it. Because again, I think if you could see the whole system front to back, you take someone like Charlie who knows automation, or Ben, like you take this kind of what I call my pretty pig face, and you put what you guys do, you got bacon. You take what, you know, all the systems that Hector knows how to run and all these other external people, you got some really cool stuff, you know, and that's just scratching the surface. You know, when you think about my one base that does kind of my journaling, well, that actually uses an external table. So this is my journaling Airtable base. But when I link in this section back to people who affected my day, it's actually doing a lookup to my base. So my Daretable, my life base, and my metaphysical base, the one I journal in, actually have connections together, including the values. So right away, I have a way of segmenting part of my life. And this sounds kind of weird, but I have a way of segmenting my life, but still reaching back to the parts that I want to. Because if I have a bad day, I want to know who affected that day. Right? I want to be able to send reports or tell people, we can't be friends anymore. Why? Did I say something wrong? No, you're wrong. All of you. Like, this is what it's like to be friends with you.
On these 12 occasions.
Yes, on these 12 occasions, you know? So, and I will, by the way, I would never do that. I would want to do that. I would really, but I wouldn't do that. But I just think, you know, it feels empowering. So it's exciting. I'm excited for the conference, Ben. I know you're excited. Hector, I know we just met, but I hope you can come out.
Austin's a great place. Our network is based out of Austin, so
really,
it's not crazy. Yeah, I've got lots of friends there.
All right. And Hector, you and I should catch up. I want to talk to you about podcasting at some point, because you're a man who knows.
Well, I have done lots of podcasting, yes, and there is not too many. That is for sure.
Yeah. Well, now that you tell me about the book thing, I can't unthink that. I'm like, There's not enough books. So yeah. Why would there be?
Here's another thing that'll send for you. You know, podcasting will be your work, and what you talk about is very evergreen, right? And so, you know, the podcasts have only been around for 12 years, but people are still listening to those podcasts, you know, a decade later. And so
I'm not completely new at podcasts. I'll be honest with you. If you look up ITSM Weekly, I actually started a podcast in 2007. We ran it to 2011. We had 1 million listeners. We had 5 continents. So we actually then spun up in different countries, copies of the show with different hosts. Your grandkids,
my point is your grandkids are, yes, right? Your
could go back and listen to those.
We'll go back.
The thing that the thing I think that kind of throws me off about why I left in 2011 was, to your point, I thought, well, why? You know, and our users used to get into all like, not our users, my co-hosts, like, how many people are listening this week, or how did we get to sponsor? And it at that point, when they got so concerned with the metrics, I just thought, I don't want to be a part of this. I come to this show, I go to Twitter, I go to Facebook. For me, I don't need an audience. I love listening to myself talk.
I will say that I love what On to Air has done with their podcasting, but I also really miss the how they interviewed somebody, like it was a theme, like every time back in the day. That's actually how I heard of you for the first time, Chris, was I heard that podcast that you had with On to Air. And I think that's the format where, to Hector's point, you go back and I'll listen to something from 10 years ago if it's someone who I'm interested in listening to. But I think it's now that it's moved to more of a news podcast, because we're evolving so fast. It's not like I want to go back and listen to the one from 2 months ago, because so much has changed in the past 2 months. Unless it's like I want to listen to the drama of the last month, and I want to, 10 years from now, I want to go back and see how things have evolved. But I think that's something that's missing in this world, is that aspect of like, here's a name, here's a description of this person that we're interviewing, and that's something that will be sticky because people will go back and listen to those interviews.
Okay, you and Hector convinced me. Seriously, because this show is kind of newsy, and you're right. I don't know if you could listen to one of our episodes 2 weeks from now and have it still make sense.
This is so evolving so fast, and every tool's evolving, software's evolving, and mini extensions is evolving, and Stacker's evolving. So like, news in this world, it's great if you're on it. I actually loved listening to On to Air last week. I was in the middle of like a big installation. I also do some heavy lifting, other work, and I had my ears in, and I was just like loving the fact that I was listening to other people talking about Airtable, which I love so much. But I'm not going to go back and listen to the one from 3 months ago because it's outdated already. But if it was an interview with somebody who I actually want to hear what their process is, even if it's outdated, I like to hear their stories. I like to hear, all the other stuff that makes it fun.
Well, Hector, something that I keep thinking about, and I really struggled with this for a long time, is I sometimes feel like I've said it all. I've said all this. I've been kind of in the news for over 10 years, right? You can't Google my name without finding like news articles and stories. It's kind of nuts. But I feel like I've said everything, but I've never really taken time to drill down on one thing. When you think about your health, what are the things you think about? When you think about journaling, why do you collect the things you thought? And I thought to myself, I literally probably have thousands of hours of just stuff that doesn't seem normal to me, but somebody else would go, no, I would want to know that too. Even my journal, one of the first things I did was download 10 years worth of moon cycles. Why? I don't sleep well on the phone, never have. I've got the data to prove it. So I wanted to have my Airtable remind me, don't schedule anything then. Today's a full moon, by the way, right? You're going to be a little spent. So I don't know. You guys have got me kind of inspired about, maybe I should think about that some more.
I've even thought about, and it's on my list of do's, but a podcast for my kids and for my family, and just for them,
Yeah.
Because once you nail down the production side of it, I mean, it gets a lot simpler, once you kind of know the black box. And so I think that, to your point, a lot of people focus on the grandiose side, the sponsors, the monetization, that aspect, which is there, and it's becoming more there as it becomes more mainstream. But on the other side of it, it really is just another way to tell a story. I am not a great writer, but I can. Yeah, I've had people. I think you said, I've had multiple people tell me that my voice, is good for a podcast.
You give throat like I haven't heard in a while.
Don't tell that to my wife.
You do. It sounds great. I actually sent Ben a link to one of your podcasts and said, listen to this guy.
I appreciate that.
He did.
But, it's just a different medium, and audio dramas have been around since, the 40s and the 50s, and people have sat around telling stories, that's as old as humans. And so someone asked me recently if they think that podcasting is going to be around, or what, and maybe in its incarnation as it stands currently with the Spotifys and the Apples, I don't know how long that is going to last, but people sitting around and listening to someone in their ears is not going away, and just with the access to the internet, and with the crazy stuff that's happening, with voice, even like voice AI and stuff like that. I mean, some really crazy, you're going to have, biographies from JFK, told to your,
Yeah, this is a Amazon Halo, and I wear this during the day. And this thing actually tells you how you're speaking. Are you being happy? Are you being sad?
Yeah.
So again, one of the things I like is browsing things by emotion. One of the very first Airtable kind of applications I ever did on Pori was something called the Habit Store. And I did the habit store because I wanted people to come in and be able to look for my productivity habits, look for my health habits, look for my value habits, my nature-centered habits, or my transcendental habits. But more than anything, search by, actually, I don't care what it is. Show me things that make Chris happy or joyful. Show me things that make Chris feel speedy, right? And the whole idea was browsing your life by emotion just seemed a natural. Why wouldn't you? I don't have a word for what I need. I have a feeling, you know? And when you talked about doing the podcast for your family, my mind just lit up, because I'll tell you one thing, guys. I know I'm only 53, but I've been successful and I'm really happy and I have a wonderful family, but I would give anything on earth to hear my mother's voice. Anything. I have not heard her voice since 2003, and I think about her every day, and I would give anything to hear her voice. And Hector, when you said just a podcast for your family, the first thing I thought was, do it.
If you don't mind, I also want to say to that point, before Airtable, I was like making videos just because, I mean, like, what else do you do? Like, I have this camera here, this DJI Osmo Pocket, best camera in the world. It has 3x gimbal, amazing thing. But I would make these videos of like my family events and whatnot. And if you do like hyper produced, where it's like going from shot to shot and you're only getting the right shots, right? That's one way. But then it kind of hit me when I was a kid and you looked at videos from the 90s, like it's just this long format. It's like 5 minutes of just a guy holding this and you're hearing all the conversations. And then all of a sudden it just cuts to another scene. So then with that inspiration, I started to make videos like that, like long 15-minute videos where it's just a long format looking in one direction. I'm in the church with my family, or I'm out at this party. And because I know that in the future, people aren't going to want to see this hyper produced video of this event. They're going to want to see just this long format, hear the voices, hear these random conversations happening over there. And so going back to the podcast idea, I think that's brilliant, because it's also remove the audience, forget about who's listening, forget about the sponsors, forget all that stuff, do it for yourself. That's what I've been doing for the past like 10 years when it comes to art. Like everything is just for myself. I don't care about who thinks what. But for a podcast, like you just said, if I can make one with my 4-year-old daughter and just have a conversation with her and kind of keep it going and not worry about if she's not making sense or if whatever, just like kind of capture it, or bring on her cousins or her favorite friends. And it's not for anybody else. It's for them in the future or for anybody else. And maybe that sparks some other creativity from other podcasters that think of some other things to do. But I think that's a good idea too.
Yeah. I gotta run because we do have to go pick up the kids.
We gotta anyway. We wrap it up at the top of the hour, so we're good.
Chris, and I'll leave you the last thing is that I think there's so much opportunity for you to be a great storyteller. Podcasts have moved past the kind of the interview talking back and forth thing, and it's still there, but there's so much room for creativity and innovation stuff. So I'm excited to continue the chat. Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right. That's good. Thank you for coming, Hector.
Thanks, Hector.
Yeah.
Charlie, thank you for coming tonight. If those of you watching, we had to let Kuvan go, but Ben, thank you for this week. It was a big week for us. We're launching this event. And I guess if you're watching the show, we're at an hour, go to daretableconference.pori.app. The link will be in the show notes somewhere. I know we'll put it on our Facebook. We'll tweet it. We'll do everything else. And gosh, I just can't wait to see everyone in person in a few weeks or a few months, 2 months almost.
Yeah, it's what are the day? April 8th and 9th. So a little bit less than 2 months from today. So thank you for joining, Charlie, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
All right. Bye, everybody.